The object of Taxi Chronicles is to allow real riders with real stories share their experience and enhance your life. So sit back and enjoy the journey. Morning, morning, morning. Yes, we're back with another episode, another rider. Today we have Theo in the house. He's a surveyor and he's going to tell us about his journey of becoming a surveyor from uni to where he is today. So nice to have you here today, Theo.
Thank you for having me.
So Theo, why surveying? What was it about surveying that you decided you was going to be a surveyor?
I think it's an incredibly broad industry that covers sort of all things from, you know, agricultural land and tenancies all the way through to inner city tenancies, sales, property advice, investing, landlord and tenant matters. I mean, it's very, very broad. I mean, even to the point of sort of then going out the other side of surveying, which is sort of site surveying, utility surveying. You know, if you're trying to do a construction project, you might need a building surveyor or a structural surveyor and things like this. So actually there's so much breadth in the industry that all sort of sits underneath the Royal Institute of Chartered Surveyors.
So I suppose estate agents, would they be surveyors as well?
Well, some might be qualified chartered surveyors if they're using MRICS after their name as a designation. Other estate agents might just be, you don't need any qualifications to be an estate agent, but if you wanted to really advise on valuations and things like that, you'd probably need to be an RICS registered valuer.
Okay. When you decided to do your surveying degree, assuming you did a surveying degree, did you understand how much it has to offer? Was you aware of that?
I didn't at the time know how broad it really was, because I did a course called at Cirencester, the Royal Agricultural University, which was rural land management. But the rural land management sort of typically takes you down the route of advising farmers on, you know, what sort of grants are available for environmental stewardship schemes, or what they should be, you know, raising their rent to, or what's a good crops to be putting in the ground depending on the soil conditions. And a lot of farmers, you know, do know this stuff themselves, but they also then come to us for advice on the matters to also work out sort of what funding and grants are available, or, you know, if they need to negotiate new rent. Or in the industry that I was in, leaving university, I was a utility surveyor, so I actually spent a lot of time working on behalf of various utility clients, such as water companies or gas companies or railway companies, where my job would be to approach the landowners and inform them that my client needed to come in to replace the pipe or lay a new pipe. So I would then serve the relevant notices, consult with them and keep them up to date, and then assess the compensation that they'd be eligible to at the end of the works, depending on how the reinstatement went.
Okay. Would you say that, considering the route you took, that you needed to take the same route, or would you have changed anything? What I'm saying?
I think I'd continue as I am, and I think it's important to get lots of experience in lots of different areas, especially sort of early days. Because I mean, once you're a qualified surveyor, you can. It's then more down to what experience you have in different areas. And I think because it's so broad, you need to get your experience through work experience and things like that beforehand to try and work out which sort of element of it you want to really focus on to create a career out of.
Okay. So you do need a degree then?
To become a chartered surveyor, you need to have an RICS accredited degree, which you can do at various universities. The other route is that there's lots of companies, such as the one that I work for, that offer apprenticeship routes, and the apprenticeship routes allow you to basically have a full-time job, getting the experience, learning all about it while doing a degree alongside. So you'd spend typically 3 weeks at work, 1 week at university, and often these apprenticeship route degrees are paid for by the company as well. So you can not have any student debt whatsoever and still get paid and learn on the job as you go.
That sounds like what I did for site management in that respect. What have you learned that you wish you knew at the beginning from this whole career and studying?
I think I probably learned that actually it's very important to have connections and always be talking and reading more and understanding more, because the more sort of information you know about various matters relating to property, the more you can advise clients, and the more sort of depth and breadth that you can offer, rather than being sort of quite specialist. You can offer sort of advice on various matters, but specialising in one particular area.
You spoke about the many different areas of surveying. I know as students, this will be on the tip of a student's tongue. What's the most lucrative area of surveying?
The most lucrative is probably in the development world, so that's taking either greenfield land and sort of developing that into, you know, new housing, or it's looking at land on the edge of big motorway junctions and things like that to put large logistics sheds, because that's where you can get the real uplift in the value of sort of taking the land from, say, a base value of £10,000 an acre to, you know, upwards of sort of £1 million an acre, depending on, there's lots of variables that is done with that though, because it all depends on sort of how flat the land is, if there's any contamination risks, if there's any utilities that need to be diverted. But it does, that's the place where you can get a real uplift in value, and bringing that's just in the countryside version, but actually bringing it back to sort of the city, you can get the same with repurposing old derelict buildings and doing a new development there. Or, you know, if there might be like a pub that's no longer trading, so it might be that you get a change of use from a planning perspective and develop it into a property or some flats, and actually get an uplift in the value. So I think that's the most lucrative to some extent, but every area and every element has its own sort of lucrativeness about it, because it's all becoming just an expert in the field and being able to really advise clients to the best of your ability.
Okay, that's really good. How do you deal with pressure in the surveying industry? I know in commercial construction, as a site manager, I had ample amount of pressure. You're only as good as your last job. And you know, with the site manager, you're dealing with the professionals and you're dealing with the trade hands. How do you deal with pressure in your job?
I think it's quite important to sort of have some good time management and try and create a routine where possible, because it can be quite sort of, every day is different, the work changes all the time, every client's different, every job's slightly different. You can spend a lot of time bouncing around between different things. You can spend your time sort of 1 minute you're going out to a meeting, the next minute you're coming back and you're having to write a report. As a result, you can actually realise that you might not have enough time in the day to be able to really get everything in, which then in itself creates that pressure element. But I think having sort of looking at the week ahead and really trying to do time management and planning, sort of, if I'm going here, can I do something else while I'm in that area, can really help save time. And the other thing is just to have a routine and remember to take a break and to switch off, find ways to switch off when you finish work, because otherwise it's very easy to be dragged into the world of working even longer hours, especially with, you know, hybrid working and working from home. There's a real, you know, risk that you can sort of carry on working, you end up starting earlier and end up working later, because it sort of all just carries on, because you're not commuting, you're not getting a distanced break, splitting your work and your personal life.
Is it a job that you're able to work from home quite a bit?
It is now and then, but it's also very important to, you know, be out there meeting clients and meeting other professionals in the industry to broaden your knowledge, and actually, you know, it might be that you can then advise another company through a recommendation because you're an expert in a certain field that they're perhaps not. So it's important to be out there and meeting people all the time, but then you can still work from home, because there are elements of, you know, emailing and doing reports and things like that, which sometimes you need a day where you're not going to be distracted by being in an office with talking to people all the time.
Based on your experience, what kind of personality does someone need to have to do your job?
I think there's variations within the career that can suit every personality. Because surveying is so broad, you can have sort of very out there, confident, talking, extrovert type people who work quite well in sort of the winning the business and retaining client sides and advising and meeting people. But actually there's also elements of, you can also, if you're quite an introvert but you love getting your head down, you love doing reports, there's things that you can do, such as assessing business rates, where you can go to vacant properties and, you know, do the inspection on your own and then come back and very much get your head down and do your report. And, you know, if you don't really like sort of meeting people and talking to people, you can, there is two ways around it.
Okay, well, we've come to the end of our journey now. My last question to you is, what does the future hold for you personally?
I think the future for me personally, I'm just going to continue to keep networking, keep meeting people, building my contact base, and to continue just sort of building on my career and working out ways that I can bring in other elements and add value in different ways.
Well, thanks a lot for that, and we wish you well.
No problem at all. Thank you.
And to the audience out there, do not forget to listen to our sister podcast, Africa Investor Stories, where we interview people from around the world who've invested in Africa. Apart from that, hope you learned something and have a nice day. We hope that episode enhanced your life. We post an interview every day as well as vlogging on our social media channel. Don't forget to subscribe to get our latest episode.